So Steph has won the second ever clutch award. The first one went to De'Aaron Fox last year, fourth quarter Fox, well-deserved. Steph won this with 45 first-place votes to DeMar DeRozan's 34 votes. SGA was in third place. Let me give you some stats. Curry led the league in points in the fourth quarter, three-pointers, field goals made, and he hit 49% from the field, 45% from three, and was 39 from 41 from the free throw line, 95%. So the numbers are there. That's that. If you want to just go by the numbers, and it's interesting because, again, this is the second year of this award, and there's always a gray area. There's always a subjective area of how the voters are going to vote and how we're going to perceive this award. And it looks like it's going to be numbers and just scoring, which clutch. I mean, you can be a clutch defender, but I think that that's much harder to grade. Now, I think Steph deserves it. By the numbers, Steph deserves it. If you were to have a counter argument to a DeMar DeRozan, or let's just say an SGA, I think is a better argument because of all the winning OKC did. The thing is, we, the Warriors, I say we, Dub Nation, we're in 48 clutch games. You heard that stat all season long, right? We led the league in clutch games, which means 5-point game, within 5 points within the last 5 minutes of a game. And so it gave Steph a ton of clutch opportunities. But again, the counter argument would be we didn't cash in on enough of them, right? Like he hit a lot of big shots. And I'm going to show you here. I created a little montage if you haven't remembered, but there were so many clutch games that we came up short in. And you can't just, that's a team issue, but Steph was a part of it. There's certainly games you can point out and say, man, that was on Steph. There's no doubt those moments as well. There were also the big moments that he had. And at his age and with this roster where there was such a focus on him, it makes it even more impressive. Let's take a look back at Steph's clutch moments during this season. Tie game, 13 seconds. The first thing OKC wants to do is make sure Chet is in front of the rim. Giddey's going to call for the switch, so he doesn't even have to rotate. He's already there. But then how about GP2 celebrating before Steph even goes into his move? On an island, Dort playing the three. He gets around it, and Steph scoop shot over Chet Holmgren. Wait a minute, basket interference. Y'all remember this? They're saying Draymond goaltended the basket. Did he tap the ball while it was already in the cylinder? Oh, that doesn't even matter because he touched the rim, right? So initially it almost felt like, okay, Steph's going to be robbed out of this game winner. But before we get to the decision from the referees, let's take a second here to appreciate the degree of difficulty. A underhanding scoop shot over 7'3" Holmgren. That has to be 12 feet in the air. The apex kisses it high off the top of the square. Difficulty on 10. So they finally come to a decision here, and they're like, yeah, Draymond, he did goaltend. He touched the rim. I don't think he touched the ball, but here's the problem. Josh Giddey grabbed the net. So essentially, it's a goaltend call on Josh Giddey. Game winner for Steph early in the season. How about December 9th against a young Blazers team? The Warriors up 1, so you just can't give up the three, right? Ant Simons, you can't give up the three. It makes it a 2-possession game, and right here is where he lost it. Right there, he's hopping back and defending a drive. Steph's like, I got you. The youngster learns his lesson, and it's a 2-possession game with less than 10 seconds to go. This is a nasty hop back. I won't even call it a step back. And then you know what comes next. Night-night. How about a week later against Brooklyn? They're up 2 out in transition. You know when you see someone return a kickoff for a touchdown and usually a defender takes a bad angle along the sideline. Look at Dinwiddie here. He's so afraid of that pull-up three. He takes a bad angle, not realizing a layup makes this a 2-possession game, and it's over. Maybe the most memorable, February 9th, Sunday afternoon, down 2. KD calls for the switch, and look at the rookie put this ball where only his guy can get it. Another football analogy, and then Steph with no dribble on the pivot from 29 feet. That's what made it so nasty. Most guys are going to try to take a rhythm dribble there. He had probably the time to do it, but you see him stick that right leg out. That lets you know there was no intention of the dribble. He was turning and he was letting that thing go, and KD could only sit and smile as Steph gets off. Was this a Dave Bautista street sweeper celebration or an ultra-aggressive air dump? You make the choice. Remember this one against Boston? They still haven't learned their lesson sending Al way above the three-point line. He splits it. He gets a little off balance on the spin. I think he's looking for Kuminga right there, but Tatum cuts that pass off, so he kind of has to put up a prayer. And Chris Paul, not another thought in his mind, but to get it back to the chef in a sight that's all too familiar for this Boston Celtics team. But like I said, the problem is we were in too many clutch situations. Clutch situations we ended up blowing, like this one, splitting the trap in a runner from the foul line to send it to overtime where we blew it. Or how about this one? I know y'all can't forget this one. One of the nastier hezzies I've ever seen. Here I go to the midi. Got him. Leaves AD for the layup in a half-court scenario and then comes up with the steal on the ensuing possession. But once again, you know the deal. Overtime, a lack of execution, bad luck, whatever you want to call it, it was an L. I have no problem Steph winning the award, right? But again, there were how many overtime and final 2-minute losses we all know too well. We would have never been in the play-in, right? So that would be the counter argument. But I do think when it comes to these awards, there's a branding and a marketing aspect of this, not necessarily with Steph, but if it's close, right? If it's either, hey, Steph and DeMar were neck and neck with all these numbers, it's gonna go to Steph because it's better marketing for the NBA, right? And there were a couple other of the awards that were announced, not the major ones, but you had Tyrese Maxey winning Most Improved with 51 votes to Kobe White's 32. Bulls are coming up short on these award lists, right? And I guess the issue with that one was Tyrese Maxey already averaged 20 points a game, and people didn't like that. Like his jump wasn't as significant as someone say at Alpi Şengün or a Kobe White who really came out of nowhere, right? The shock value. And again, what are you voting for? The shock value, you probably got to go Kobe White, although he was a lottery pick, Carolina. You remember him running around with his head cut off, but something's clicked for him, and he looks like a big part of their future. Şengün, it's interesting because you know, he again, the shock factor of how good he was, but then they did all that winning without him. So I don't know if he never gets hurt, is he in this discussion, or does Houston win enough? But I would have went with Kobe. I like the shock factor. And the counter to that argument would be when you listen to a lot of former stars, star players, they say the toughest jump to make in the league is from star to superstar or from really good to great. That's the toughest jump. And so you could make that argument that that's what Maxey is making in the process of making from like a star to like the superstar franchise type player. I'm not saying he's there yet, but that would be that argument. But I like the shock factor of Kobe White out of nowhere all of a sudden is giving you 40 balls. But Tyrese Maxey wins Most Improved. Sixth Man of the Year, another controversial one, Naz Reid. What did he have? 45 votes to Malik Monk's 43. So this was the closest voting. And a lot of people are going to say, if Malik Monk doesn't get hurt, he's a shoo-in. He wins. And Monk wasn't too happy about it. I guess he took to social media. I'd push back a little bit. One, subjectively speaking, just personally, I like that it's a different archetype of player. If we go back and look at the six-man award, I mean, combo guards dominate that award, right? Like that's just like who you immediately think of, a Lou Will, a Jamal Crawford. Malik Monk is of that ilk. And so I'm not saying he didn't deserve it, but the other thing that I would say about Naz Reid is this stretch 4-5 is defensively. I think objectively speaking, Naz Reid is a much better defender than Malik Monk. And so it's six-man. We're not talking clutch. It's not just scoring. It's six-man impact off the bench. If you take some of the defense into account, I got no problems with Naz Reid winning that award. Now, the votes for these awards are regular season awards. Therefore, they have to cast their votes before the playoffs. A lot of people don't like that because we know ultimately the playoffs are where, you make your bread. But you look at the MVP ladder, and all of them are still, we're still in round one here, but there still should be, you still feel good about all their cases, right? Especially Embiid, One-Eyed Willie in Philly. Woo-wee. But if I have no problem with Jokic winning the third. We're talking regular season. That's how I would feel. However, it'd be cool if SGA won it. Those OKC boys look spooky, man. They look spooky. I had done a hybrid breakdown on Patreon yesterday about it. And yeah, they're taking care of business like they should against the 8th seed, a depleted 8th seed, but it's how it looks, right? The context of it, it's like, you're like, ooh, the chemistry, the response. New Orleans is feisty. They got a lot of feisty guys on that roster. Every time they'd make a run, I loved how Chet responded to them trying to go at him at the beginning of that game. Every time New Orleans makes a run, OKC, they're just calm. They're collected on the back of SGA, the chemistry. And for a young team, Dagnall has them executing. And so I at this point right now, like, listen, you say the rebounding and you see the size issue with Valanciunas, but they're able to push the pace and make him pay from the three-point line. And as of right now, I think they are a legit threat to this Denver Nuggets team. I'm not saying they're going to be favored or they should win, but they're a threat. They're to be taken serious. Even though they're young, I think they're showing that they're ready for the moment. And I say all that to say it would be dope for SGA to win this MVP award. I would have no problem with it. And it would remind me of the 15 Steph MVP. Because now you'd have to cap it off and win a chip. Not necessarily, but it feels like the same phase in their careers, right? As far as Defensive Player of the Year goes, sounds like Rudy's going to be a shoo-in. I'm also impressed with Minnesota. I do think Minnesota and OKC are, if you're Denver, those are the two teams that would concern me most. Not that any of them worry them, but those are the two threats in the West right now. And it sounds like Rudy's going to win, what is this, his third Defensive Player of the Year? Personally speaking, it'd be dope to give it to Wemby. And I get that he wasn't on a winning team, but he has a lot of the same traits as Gobert, doesn't rebound as well, but plays out on the perimeter better, moves better, but he has the same instincts and feel, and obviously can cover ground at that same rate, even more so. And so when you talk about the NBA kind of making marketing decisions in these awards, I know it's a little tinfoil hatty, but Wemby would be the smart, could he sneak that Defensive Player of the Year award? Like, it would be shocking, but it wouldn't be, because it would be smart for the NBA to do so. But never mind about what I think of these awards. How do y'all feel? Let me know in the comments who you got in these award categories and what you think about the ones that have already been announced. I'll be back with another one shortly, talking about the first round unfolding. LeBron, I told y'all they were going to fold after that game winner. It broke their spirits, right? It broke their spirits. Now LeBron's talking about, oh, it's just basketball, man. At the end of the day, it's just basketball. I like to, read books and watch The Godfather. Like, LeBron, I could see this coming. It's the same energy again from that 18 finals when he knew he ain't got enough, right? And then Jokic with probably the toughest quote of the season unintentionally, right? But the winning is a lifestyle for us. That's a bar. I'll be back with another one shortly, talking more about the back end of these first round matchups, because it looks like we're going to have some extended series. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.